Program. The station does not guarantee the results of any investments made by a listener to this program.
This is The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary is a San Diego financial solutions attorney, protecting people like you. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now, here's Gary.
Happy Thursday. Hey, have you wondered when you hear news like, oh, the United Auto Workers are going to strike, or somebody's coming out with a new electric car, or Tesla's running out of money? Do you ever wonder how that affects the market or whether it affects your financial plan? So we have my good friend, Anthony Wright, who's a faith-based financial planner. He is a financial fiduciary. His company is called Retirement Specialty Group. Good friend of mine, my personal financial advisor, and super happy to have him on the show today to answer our questions. How you doing, Anthony?
Good to be with you, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Hey,
Awesome.
I know it's always fun. I love the fact that it does electronically. We are right next to each other, and it doesn't matter distance because that's the way the world ticks right now.
I love it.
Crazy.
I love it.
Hey, I've got some questions about the market right now. Just kind of a real short, personal story. In real estate, the markets have been going up and down, and you have the 30-year mortgage rates. They were going up, 7, 7.5, 7.6, 7.7, 7.8. And very interesting is I have a son that is actually in Washington State that just locked in a mortgage rate at 7.0. And when I told my mortgage guy that, he went, how did he do that? It's interesting to me that it seems like you get news in one place that rates are this high and this is doing that. And then when you go into reality or get somebody that's really good at what they're doing, and the stuff you hear on the news just simply isn't accurate. So I love your comments on that kind of stuff, like especially with, with financial advices. I just keep finding that seems to be the case.
It is the case. It's unfortunate that the news don't really give us the news anymore. They always paint a very gloom and doom picture. And if you've ever noticed, you don't watch the news or listen to the news, and they'll tell you all the good things that the churches in the community did this week, and how many widows got meals delivered to them, and how awesome it was that their yards got mowed. All you hear about is a shooting at Martin Luther King and 2nd Avenue, a shooting at such and such street in the corner of this and that, and the economy is crashing, and the market's tanking, and inflation's out of control. They just slant everything, and it's unfortunate because it drives fear into people that listen to the news, watch the news. I'll tell you a story, Gary. Personally, I found myself when I used to watch the news a lot, and I used to listen to it a lot. And on my XM, I even have Fox News on there and other news stations that I would listen to. And at the end of the day, I found myself grumpy. I found myself in just a bad mood, and even feeling down and depressed. And one day it dawned on me, it was what I was watching and what I was listening to. So I haven't watched the news. I haven't listened to the news in going on 4 years now. So I just don't tune into it. Now, that doesn't mean I stick my head in the sand and I don't know what's going on. I read snippets of stuff going on my phone, on Facebook, on the internet. I will read the headlines, but that's really about it, because they just don't give us the truth. Everything is slanted. It's a great time right now to be investing. There's some really good sales that's out there, and if most people are like my wife. I mean, she would drive 100 miles to the mall just to save 50% on a pair of shoes or some clothes.
That's
So
right.
there's some really good deals out there right now that are 50% off, and we can get some really good stocks right now and really good ETFs. And I'm not quite sure why they're painting such a gloom and doom picture. I guess it's because the feds are going to come up and announce another rate increase. But man, congratulations on your boy getting a great rate. Fantastic rate.
I think it's great. And it was really good for him too when he told me about it. And he's because he, like everybody else, if you turn on the radio, you turn on the TV, they're always saying, "Oh, rates are going so high and you should be so sad," and whatever. And then he calls me and says, "Dad, yeah, we locked in at 7. I don't know how they did that, but that's not what the news was saying would happen." It's funny. And
No,
I go,
the news is reporting like 9.
I know.
I heard 9.05 on one of them. That was so congratulations to a great interest rate for your son.
I really think so. These are some of my theories, and I'm not a doom and gloom guy at all, but I think what happens is people unfortunately the news cycle really gets people amped up on things and really scared, and oh my gosh, rates are going high and all that, and it almost this is really weird, but this is the way I feel about it. It almost feels to me like there's this intentional, fear mongering, ramping up that things are going to be horrible and rates are going so high and nobody's going to be able to buy a house anymore. And the market's going all over the place, so that when the government comes out and says, "Oh, well, we're going to save you guys. This is what we're going to do. We're going to cool down the economy. We're going to do this. We're going to cool down inflation. We're going to reduce this. And so aren't we a hero?" And I usually look at those type of things and say, grab me the basket. I'm going to vomit, because it's like, I don't want my government saving me because they're not good at it. I want the retail market to do its thing, because human beings are incredible. What we get accomplished when the chips are done and when things need to be done, we do the things that need to be done. And what I like to do is affiliate myself and associate myself with people that understand that, like you, that, when the going gets tough, you just, the tough get going. It's not, it's just, that's the way life rolls. It's never easy. And if we are just going to say, oh, the market is tough, or the market is going down, or the Dow dropped, or S&P is up and down, it's like, I don't let that control my life, because it doesn't make, first of all, it's not really true. And second of all, why would I let that control my life?
Absolutely. 100% agree.
So we are on the Word on Wealth, and we got Anthony Wright today, my friend, my financial hero. His number is 931 retired. If you want to connect with Anthony and his team, it's 931 retired. Okay. Coming up next, I have been told that at Retirement Specialty Group, that's Anthony's company, that there are no emotional advisors. And I love that. And I want Anthony to explain that to me. Why is that important, that you don't have emotional advisors? Coming up next on the Word on Wealth.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is faith-based investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christian families don't understand this one thing. The money that you're saving for retirement helps fund the abortion industry as well as other liberal anti-family causes. It's the sad, dirty little secret of American investing world. And here's the good news, though. You probably also didn't know that just a few minutes of your time and we'll screen and clean your investments for you. There's no cost, no obligation. Learn the truth about your own investment mix. Then the choice is yours. Remember, the word says when God's money is in the hands of the righteous, the people rejoice. Well, we also are fiduciary investment advisor representatives. That means that our firm makes a pledge to always act in your best interest. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com. Download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing, or call me at 931-RETIRED. And please don't forget, listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
So, Gary, we've talked a long time about estate administration. So, what is that and why is it important?
Estate administration is the distribution part of estate planning. So when someone passes away and they leave money to beneficiaries, the property has to be administered. So it's like taking it from the decedent to the survivor. That's called the estate administration process. So usually you're going to have a successor trustee that's named in the trust. So have no idea what they're doing because they've never done it before. So then they call on GQ Law and we walk them step by step on how to be a successful and good successor trustee. We also do the required notifications. We notify the Department of Health Services and all the legal requirements so that they can have the estate administration done properly. We help successor trustees be successful.
Call or click to request your free consultation. GQlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
Who will you trust with the biggest financial decision of your lifetime? If you're planning to buy or sell a home in San Diego County, do what I do and work with the true San Diego real estate experts. Ken Pecos and the Pecos Group helped me and my family. They can help you. This is Gary Quackenbush of The Word on Wealth. You hear Ken every week here on The Word on Wealth. He's our expert. He's got integrity, exceptional service, deep knowledge of the San Diego, Coronado, and South Bay regions. These are just some of the reasons that Ken Pecos has completed hundreds of transactions. He manages a powerful team of professionals at the Pecos Group. From single-family attached homes to luxury high-value waterfront properties to apartment buildings, Ken Pecos is ready to help you avoid problems and costly mistakes. Learn more online at kenpecos.com. That's Ken Pecos, Pecus.com. Or call 619-977-8419.
DRE number 010566969, brokered by eXp Realty.
Tell a friend about this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
All right, you're listening to The Word on Wealth. We've got Anthony Wright from the Retirement Specialty Group. He is the author of a book called Bible Safe Investing. In fact, if you want his faith-based investing book, it is free. I know he's making it free for my listeners at least through the end of this month. So get it quickly. Go onto his website, Bible Safe Investing. That's one polysyllabic word, BibleSafeInvesting.com. And it says start here, and you put in your email address and your name, and then they will send you a PDF of the book. And it's actually really good. Not that I'm surprised, but it's a short read, but it explains what it means to have faith-based investing, how to put your money where your faith and your understanding and where your family values are. So it's super important to get that so you can understand that concept, and then it will change how you think about money. I promise. BibleSafeInvesting.com. Anthony has declared to me, Gary, at Retirement Specialty Group, we have no emotional advisors. And I have learned that is phenomenally important. So I want Anthony to address that. Why should we stay away from emotional advisors, and how do we avoid them?
Great question. And, 15 years ago when I got into financial advisor and got into investment advising, and, prior to that for 5 years, I was a pastor. I pastored a church over in Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge. A lot of listeners know where that area is at. They go there to vacation. It's a big, huge vacation place in Tennessee, and we get about 14 million visitors a year over there. And it's about a 2-mile strip. I mean, it's cramming 14 million people, you know. I mean, it's just crazy. It's insane. But when people would come in for counseling and, you know, they would say, Pastor, you know, I was in my prayer time and I felt like the Lord told me this and felt like the Lord told me that. Well, my automatic response was, if that's what you think the Lord told you, why are you asking me? So it's that way with emotions. Emotions are good, but there's a time that you do not need emotions. You've got to keep those emotions in check. So if somebody calls, just like when I was a pastor, when I was pastoring that church, and people say, oh, Anthony, this stock's been up, it's been down, just sell it, just get rid of it, just sell it, put me in something else. It's been up 2%, then it went down, then it went up, and then it went down. This is just and then okay, dude, it's your money. Okay, you want to sell it, we'll sell it, but you're going to lose money. So I learned that anytime I went to see my pastor for advice, I would never go in there saying, well, I've been praying, I feel like the Lord told me this, I feel like the Lord's wanting me to do that, but what do you think? Well, wow, if God told you to do it, you don't be sitting here asking me.
That's right.
So I'm the same way with, if we don't want investment advisors making emotional decisions. And the absolute worst thing that you as a consumer can do is call and just demand speaking to the investment advisor. Talk to his team, talk to his staff, ask questions. You don't want him on the phone because he has the power. At your command, he can click a button and sell your positions, even though you're down $30,000. Wow. And he will do it, not because it's the right thing to do. He will do it because it's an emotional decision, because he works for you, the client. And if you're all emotional and you're all hyped up and you get him on the phone and you sell that, and he's going to say, but Miss Jones, you're down $30,000. I don't care. You sell that position. Well, okay. And that's what you're going to get. And then 2 weeks later, you would have earned it all back. So that's the reason we're not emotional advisors, and I don't want any emotional advisors, and I don't have any. And that's why a lot of instances, when you speak to those investment advisors and you call the office, be sure that you're very calm, be sure you're very level-headed, be sure you ask very level-headed questions. Don't say crazy things like, my account's down $30,000. Oh my God, I was watching on the news and the Fed chairman's going to raise rates, and just get me out. Just get me out. Well, they're going to get you out, all right, and then you're going to lose $30,000. So when you call the office and you speak to them, speak very non-emotional. It's fine if you see in your account that you're down $30,000. Just pose the question, why is my account down $30,000? Okay, and then they'll tell you. All right, well, what do you think? Well, I think according to some of the big time board members sold off a lot of stock, so I think it's going to bounce right back. So it's okay to have that conversation with them. Mm-hmm. Just don't get emotional, and you don't want them to get emotional, because emotions cost you to do a lot of bad things. And I've heard before, Gary, and I know you've heard before. You've been around a lot of church people, and I've heard of people getting divorced and then they got remarried another year or two later. Why? Mm-hmm. Because in the heat of the moment and when emotions were raging high, they made an emotional decision. Then as they calmed down over the year or 2 years, they really knew what they had and they really saw what they messed up. So they went back and remarried. So people make bad decisions when they are emotionally hyped up. And sometimes they're emotionally like on fire, ready to fight, and they get in a fight, and then who ends up getting hurt? Them, other people. So just try to stay level-headed, try to stay very neutral with your emotions when talking to the advisors.
Excellent advice. And I think what you will find also, especially in an organization, I mean, if you're looking for a financial advisor, if you don't have your favorite one, it should be Anthony, 931 retired. If you're looking for your favorite financial advisor, also make sure that they're a fiduciary, because that's different. A financial fiduciary is actually obligated to act in your best interest. You can get emotional with them and you can force them to do what you want them to do, but they're going to say, I'm sorry, this is not the right thing to do. Fiduciary financial planners are a different breed of cat, because they're the ones that really kind of hold you to the, what is right, what is best, and they advise you really correctly on that. It's not just somebody that went to school and said, hey, I used to be a business finance major. I mean, I'm a business finance major. I had classes in investments and financing, and I wouldn't dare try to handle my money like Anthony does. So one of the things I do want to talk about, and this is just kind of moving into some different kind of concepts and things. You guys, if you want to know about this, call 931 retired. 931 retired, RETIRED. You know how to spell it. And then you're going to get a hold of Anthony's team, and this team it's small enough to be personal. It's big enough to get the job done. I mean, it's just like they hit the sweet spot. Now, I want to ask you, Anthony, we are talking about, faith-based investing and making sure that your money is not in companies that invest in things that are like anti-family, that support abortion. You have all these, different causes that a lot of us, especially family members, just kind of like, oh, I don't subscribe to that. Yet, if I put my money in certain companies, some of the big ones, they invest millions of dollars in supporting and promoting and, frankly, beefing up things that I would never vote for and never subscribe to. Yet I'm paying that company money with my money and being a part owner and allowing them to do it. You were talking about different like public companies and non-public companies. So I wanted to ask, and I know when we're doing the faith-based investing, some of the companies that you have my money in and our money as your clients, is some of it are public companies, there's some are non-public. So can you help us understand a little bit the difference between like a public company and a non-public company, and what are kind of advantages, disadvantages of being invested in those?
Yeah, great question. So a publicly traded company is traded on a stock exchange, so it's publicly readily available. So you could go on some do it yourself and buy it. It's a publicly traded company. That means they fall under the rule of the SEC, where they have to disclose everything. Now, a privately held company is different. You can own stock if they want to sell you stock, but you cannot go on, open your laptop computer, punch in the code and sell it. The only way you're going to sell that privately held stock is you're going to have a buyer. And there's a lot of companies out there that are like that. They're a privately held company. Chick-fil-A is a privately held company. Home Depot is a privately held company. Not all big name companies are publicly traded companies. So if you knew Mr. Green and he would sell you some shares of stock in Hobby Lobby, yes, you could own those shares of stock, but the only way you're ever going to sell them is you got to find somebody else that's going to buy them. So you can't just go on your computer and sell those shares. So, Mr. Green might buy them back, or, over at Chick-fil-A, Mr. Kathy might buy them back if he sold you some Chick-fil-A shares. So that's the difference in a publicly traded company. They're going to be very highly scrutinized, and they're going to have to report where that money goes because it's your money. That's why we screen your investments to see what they're doing with your money. And if we find out they're doing bad things with your money, we clean it up, and then we put it in companies doing good things with your money.
2 minutes.
To rest well, you're able to sleep well at night knowing that you're supporting good things, not bad things. Now, there's nothing wrong with owning privately held money and privately held companies. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to understand the only way you're going to get your money back is you're going to have to find another buyer, or sometimes that company will go public later on, and then that's when you make it. And I know some success stories that people have made it really, really big, holding private shares in private companies, and then they do what's called an initial public offering, an IPO, and then they go public. And when they go public, they sell out for some pretty big bucks. And if you really look at Elon Musk, if you really look at Bill Gates, you look at Warren Buffett, you look at these kind of guys, that is exactly what they do. You know, all Elon Musk did was when he started Tesla.
1 minute.
Privately shares of Tesla. Well, then when Tesla went public and everybody started buying it, that's where his wealth came in. Same thing with Bill Gates and Microsoft. He just started out owning just a very private company, and he had shares and it went public. So that's the difference in the two. I hope that helped.
No, that's very, very helpful, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate you being, a partner in the show, The Word on Wealth. I mean, that's what we talk about. We talk about wealth. And then today is the day when we got to pick your brain and have some great answers from you. Anthony, as always, my friend, really appreciate you being our professional financial advisor here on the show. It's the Word on Wealth financial fiduciary, Anthony Wright. His number is 931 retired. Anthony, talk again next week, and we'll actually you and I will probably be talking within the next couple of days. I appreciate it, man. Have a good rest of your day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good to talk to you, man. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Take care. All right. That's Anthony Wright, folks. 931 retired. Give him a call.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST. Download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST.
What if you can't find a beneficiary? Let's say that you're assigned to be the successor trustee. Mom and dad have passed away, and you know most of the beneficiaries, but there's one that you cannot find. can you just go ahead and distribute the assets from the trust? I'm going to answer that question. Coming up next here on The Word on Wealth, you've got me right to the top of the hour. If you've got questions for me, the number is 855-500-TRUST. That's my line directly to me. If you want to be on the show and ask me a question here on the air, it is 888-344-1170, 888-344-1170 here on The Word on Wealth. Okay, before I get to that, though, I wanted to make sure that I was clear on Anthony's number. As you can see, I appreciate Anthony. He's a good friend, a good financial advisor, a financial fiduciary, and his number, it's easy to remember, 931 retired. What I am doing at this point is if you have questions that are financial related, I just send you to 931 retired. He's got a great team that work with him. They're just, I don't know, they're fun to work with. It's in Tennessee, which doesn't make any difference. I mean, if you're with Goldman Sachs, you're all over the place anyway. If you're with Schwab, you're all over the place. So it's fun to have Anthony and his team, and they know what they're doing. They're very well versed. They'll talk to you about different investment strategies after they analyze and figure out what your tolerance is for risk. Like, how much do you want to make, and what is your willingness to risk money or to do that? So they measure your risk tolerance, figure out where you fit into it, and then come up with a strategy, a plan. And like he was saying, it gets adjusted by you with consultation. And if you agree with what they're doing, or if you want to make some tweaks or changes to it, that's all stuff that they will talk to you about. So it's really neat. It's a when you work with Anthony, you feel like you're really involved. If you want to be involved, they will involve you in so many of the decisions. If you don't, and you just say, here's my risk tolerance, go make me money, then they're willing to do that as well. They like to keep you involved. They keep you informed. It's not, we're going to meet semi-annually to review your portfolio. It's more like we're going to review your portfolio constantly, and we will, meet with you and talk to you about strategies and the way things are going. So it's pretty cool. 931 retired. Switching topics to the trust administration. Trust administration is the process where, when you you have a trust, you've passed away, and now your beneficiaries are, entitled now to be paid per the terms of the trust. There's somebody in charge. That person is called a successor trustee. When that successor trustee is doing their job, that process is simply called trust administration. They're administering the trust, which means they're handing out money, they're distributing the gifts, they're making the transfers according to what the trust says. That trust administration process gets abused all the time. Now, the reason you need to be really cautious with it is because if you are a successor trustee and you think everything is easy, you may not be doing it right. Okay, it can go smoothly. It's not an easy process. The successor trustee has some legal obligations under the California Probate Code. That's the code that governs all assets of deceased people or incapacitated people. That's all under the probate court jurisdiction. The probate code controls that. And the probate code says very specifically what must be done by every successor trustee as they serve as the successor trustee. So even though you think, okay, mom and dad died, there's 3 bank accounts, there's 3 kids, we're going to give 1 bank account to each kid, and then the house, we're going to sell it and distribute it and, split it 3 ways. Sure, that's the easy part. But the part that you didn't realize is you are legally required to notify all of the beneficiaries of the trust. And if there's a deceased beneficiary, you have to notify their heirs. Okay. Notifying the beneficiaries, you're notifying anybody that is listed in the trust, whether they're listed as a successor trustee or an alternate successor trustee or anything like that. They all need to be notified. And the way to notify them is you find out them and their address, and you notify them. Now, what happens sometimes is if you don't do the notification, you legally are not allowed to distribute money from the trust. You've got to hang on to that money, hold and do an accounting, figure out where all the money is, move it all into a safe account, and then notify all the beneficiaries of what's being done. If all the beneficiaries cannot be notified, you have to do some investigation, and maybe you have to hire a private investigator, somebody to sleuth it out and figure out where that person went, who it is, where they live, because they are legally entitled to notification. Even if they've been disinherited, they get to know about it. If they are listed in there as a potential successor trustee, they get to know about it. Those are the things that you want, the people that you want to have notice. The reason that's required is because the law is still trying to protect inheritances from just vaporizing and going away. Still trying to make it so that the trustee has some legal obligation to account and respond to all of the beneficiaries. Now, the big question is, what if one of the beneficiaries cannot be found? This happens. I'm sure many of you listening have heard about this, or maybe it's that situation in your own families. Sometimes you have a sibling or a child that basically hasn't communicated with the family for 5 or 10 years. Who knows where they are? Well, if you send information to their last known address, it gets returned. No longer here, forwarding order expired. However, but that person still needs to be notified of the trust terms. That's a legal requirement. Every beneficiary gets to know the terms of the trust. Even if there's 3 of you and you love each other dearly and you see each other every week and you spend all this time together, it doesn't matter. If there's more than one beneficiary and that one and so you have a successor trustee and multiple beneficiaries, the law requires they get a copy of the terms of the trust, a copy of the trust itself, and that they have 90 days to object to it if they want to. So if you can't find a beneficiary, that's going to be the challenge. You can't just say, well, we found 3 of the 4 and the 4th kid we haven't, that's our long lost brother. We haven't heard from him in 20 years. So let's just ignore that, pretend like he's not around anymore. Well, the fact is you would have to give him notification or prove that he died and that he had no children. Okay. Because if he died and had children, then now his children would be potentially entitled to his share. They'd have the rights that he had, if any. So part of this is the message from me, Gary, is if your trust is old, if you have beneficiaries that are gone astray, kids that are no longer communicating with you, you really don't know where they are, then get your trust amended. If you don't know where they are, why, don't leave them money that's just going to, sit somewhere forever until they finally show up, or never. It may just go to the state. But if there's a question of where, if you have a kid that's just kind of cut you off or completely cut you off, what's wrong with taking them out of the estate plan or reducing their share enough to where it doesn't matter whether it goes to the state? But you amend your trust to at least give notification or information to your trust administrator and your trustee where your kids are. And if it's been 15 years and they're moved, get new addresses. If you have no idea where one of your kids or one of your potential heirs is, then you're going to have to do something to try to figure that out.
2
or
minutes.
amend the trust so that they don't need to be notified. Okay. If you are a successor trustee and you don't have anybody helping you that knows exactly what to do, I'd be happy to help you. You would just call my office, 855-500-TRUST. We talk about this typically Monday through Thursday on the show. We talk about trust administration, wills, trust, power of attorneys, and things. And so hopefully this is going to be helpful to you. If you're not getting enough information to be able to do it yourself with listening to the show, which I really appreciate you doing, then give us a call. And my office can schedule a free initial consultation with you to figure out what you need, what kind of help you need, how you're doing so far. And the number for that is 855-500-TRUST. Okay. If the beneficiary can never be found, that's going to be a problem, because you may have to go to court and actually put the money in a deposit account, and there it will sit forever.
1 minute.
Because it's basically found money that we don't know where it goes, because we don't know who it's supposed to go to. So you would basically do the trust distribution, administration, whole process, And that money for that beneficiary, as properly calculated, will sit with the state of California and potentially go to the state of California after several decades. So if that's even a possibility with your own trust, because there's just amend it, make the changes, get it so that it's not such a hassle for the people that have not been estranged. 855-500-TRUST is the number. We are trying to get as many amendments done and new trusts as we can by the end of the month, because October gets really busy. So get with us now. We got some appointments open available next week, but give us a call. We can turn around everything with you and get it all done within a couple of weeks. So we're super fast. We do a great job. 855-500-TRUST. Coming up next, what if the house has a
You've
mortgage on
got
it?
questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
Gary, your team at GQ Law are experts at solving IRS and state tax problems. Talk about that.
When people have a tax problem, it tends to really stress them out. And one of the things we've been able to do is figure out how to resolve tax problems. One thing we might be doing is setting up a payment plan or getting a collection delay, maybe getting a determination that the person shouldn't have to pay the taxes at all. We do offers and compromise. We do auto reconsiderations. And one of the things that's a really powerful tool that some people don't recognize is sometimes bankruptcy can be used to actually eliminate taxes when there's certain conditions of the code that are met. So we can do all kinds of things. After we analyze your situation, we can figure out what's available, discuss your options, and figure out which ones to implement, what it's going to cost, how long it's going to take. And we can get people out from under all kinds of tax problems so they can sleep again. That's our goal.
Request your free initial consultation. GQlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
It's not unusual.
On Well with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
All right, welcome. Hey, we're so glad you're listening to the Word on Wealth. You know that Monday through Friday we have the show, but Monday through Thursday we talk about wealth with a dollar sign. And on Fridays, we have a very special show where we do talk about wealth with no dollar sign. So our Friday show is specifically dedicated to dealing with mental health and mental wealth. So we call it Finding Joy Friday. And tomorrow we have a very special guest, Shalise Berry. She is it's a very interesting woman where she does this thing called Art for Healing. And we'll have her talk all about that tomorrow on the show. So be listening tomorrow. Whenever be listening on Friday, we're going to have Shalise come up and talk to us about Art for Healing. So it's very interesting concept. It's kind of thrilling and exciting to learn about because we're always looking for ways to chemically reduce our cortisol levels. And I think I'm always looking for that. Where stress causes cortisol levels, which causes all kinds of things going crazy in your body. And so, how do we reduce stress in our life and lower our cortisol? Is maybe it's Art for Healing. So that's tomorrow.
There you go. So listeners need to bring their coloring books and crayons along with them.
Coloring books, crayons, and watercolors if you're into that thing. That sounds good. Go. And of course, we have Todd James, who will be on the show with me as always, and he is going to be and is my sidekick. So we really appreciate that. That's gonna be tomorrow. All right, finish up this show, you guys. There's lines open. You got a couple of minutes to give me a call if you want to ask me a question specifically. 888-344-1170. All right. We already know if you can't find a beneficiary, you got to find the beneficiary, or else the money will go to the state if it's not claimed. That's where you have the state of California lost money claim section. Okay. So my point really is, you guys, if you have an estate plan that is ancient, let's fix it. Let's just get it done. I mean, you may need to replace it, start over. It did its job. It did a great job. You know, if your estate plan is like 10 years old, it's done a great job. Do we need to amend it to change who the beneficiaries are, who's in charge? Like, who do you want as your successor trustee? Do you want to put any conditions on distribution? Like how much a beneficiary can get based on certain behaviors, like going to college or not going to college, or dropping out, or opening a business, or buying a home. You can amend it to change all those things, make it a very colorful, flavorful trust if you want. And if you don't have an estate plan, or if it's super old, we will start afresh and we'll make you an estate plan. We can put it together. Our typical turnaround time is a couple of weeks. So there you go. It's not super easy, but we try to make it as easy peasy as possible. And you'll like the experience. It'll get done quickly. That way, with our 2-week turnaround time, you're going to be all set and you're going to feel like you have checked off a huge box. Now, let's see. Naming beneficiaries. So here's one of the things. If you, let's say you have your home and you're thinking, I really want my home, my personal residence, to go to my children as the family home. So my discussion now is about the family home. And I have a lot of discussions with friends of mine and with clients about the family home. And I'm sorry, but a lot of times people get really offended on the way I talk about the family home, because I say there's no family home. It doesn't work that way anymore. And what I mean by that is most kids now do not live near the family. They just don't. And even if they did, most kids don't want to house with their siblings because they have spouses and they have children and they have other things going on. So most kids don't want to do that. It's kind of I understand the thought is, okay, we want a family home. We want a place for the kids to come back. And if they, if they're having financial issues or financial situations, we want that house available to our children after we die. And that sounds like a super cool idea. The challenge is, who pays the money to maintain that property? And you might say, well, whichever kid is living there. What if no kids are living there? Then who's the one that's supposed to now make that property productive? Who's going to be the one that becomes the property manager, the rental manager, and that type of thing? Do you have your successor trustee primed to do that for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Because if you're going to control who owns the house, and who's going to go there, who's going to use the house, you have to keep it in your trust. Because as soon as it leaves the trust, as soon as you make that distribution, you say, I want all 4 of my children to be the homeowners of the principal residence, and I want them to use that home only for personal purposes, and no one can live there longer than 1 month at a time. And they must have at least if they stay there for a month, they have to at least have a month in between stays. So you can write stuff like that in there. It's got to be, if you want to enforce it and make that really happen, then you're going to have to leave it in the trust, and the trustee that's doing the work, there needs to be enough money to reimburse them. There should be enough money in there to pay them, because trustees are allowed to be paid in Southern California, actually in most states, but in California for sure. They're allowed to be paid because it's a job. Now, if they decided to rent it out, is that okay? Is that not okay? So the thing with having this family home is somebody's going to have to care for it. And none of the beneficiaries are going to want to pony up the money to re-roof it, to, if a window breaks, if there's flooding, whatever, there's all these maintenance issues. And if it is owned by the trust, then the trust is going to have to pay for that, which means the trust has to keep money, which means money's not going to be distributed to the children because you got to keep enough money in there and predict how long you're going to maintain the property, how much it's going to cost per year. And you need to keep that money in the bank, or else where else are you going to get it? I mean, if you're going to turn into an Airbnb and rent it out, that's not what mom and dad wanted. That's not what all the siblings are going to agree to. So sometimes the family home concept, it's cool to put it in as a what we call precatory language, which is like pleading language, and where you say, what our desire or hope for our children is that they, can get along enough to co-own this property so it's available for family members for their use, and then you can put conditions on it. So that's always possible to do. It is possible. Most of the time it doesn't really work out because the kids don't want to be partners, but you've at least declared your intention. You've shown them what you want to have done. You've set it up the best you could so that they could co-own the property. So at least you've made your declaration of what you wanted done. If they do something different, it'll probably be, totally legitimate and legal and all that, but it's going to be something that at least you've declared what you wanted. And if the kids jointly decide to sell, not have this family home thing going on, then that's something that they decide jointly. So I like when you put things in the trust where they have to decide together, but you just don't want to force them to be partners because it, who knows what's going to cause, but it does cause problems sometimes. All right. If a house has a mortgage on it and you've declared that the house is to stay in the trust, the mortgage has to be paid. So the trust is going to have to figure out how to pay the mortgage, and the trust is not going to be able to borrow money. So the house is going to have to be sold for the mortgage to be paid, or maybe one of the kids can buy it from the trust and that would be enough to pay the mortgage. But either way, there has to be enough to pay that mortgage because the person that owed the money is now deceased and the bank wants to get their money and they're legally entitled. And if you don't give it to them, they can foreclose on the property, and that's a big waste of money and a big bummer. Okay. Another question on a house that comes up: what if you decide, okay, I've worked my whole life, I've got 2 houses, I've got 2 children, I want 1 to go to each kid. Noble idea again. Then you pass away and you have your trust that says, if my kids are, when they're 30 and they're financially mature, they can have their inheritance. But until then, they can have enough for health and education and support, but they can't have their whole inheritance. Okay. And then you put in there that the house goes in equal shares to my children, and you pass away. Now you've got a kid.
2 minutes.
You've got a kid now that maybe is too young. Maybe it's a 16-year-old, or maybe a 17-year-old, or a 25-year-old, and your trust doesn't allow them to have complete unrestricted ownership until they're 30. Now we got a big problem. So be super careful with houses and trying to assign a house to a beneficiary, especially if that beneficiary is under the age restrictions you're putting in the trust. So if your trust says you can't have your outright distributions until you're 30, and now you've got a house and the kid's only 25, who's going to maintain the house for the next 5 years? So you got to build that in so that the house can be sold, money be put in an investment account to make good money while the kid is turning, 30 years old, and then you hand him the money. So just a lot of things to consider with houses. The next question on housing is, what if you inherit a house that you don't want? I mean, it literally says in the trust, when I pass away, then my daughter, Charlotte, gets the residence. Does Charlotte have to keep the house? Is she compelled? Here's the short answer. When the house gets transferred to Charlotte, she will own it in fee simple. She'll own the whole thing. Even if mom and dad said, thou shalt own this house and thou shalt keep it, legally she has no obligation. She can sell the house, keep the money, give the house away, use it as a rental, whatever. It's the parents want to put in language to guide her, but the only way to keep it permanent is you have to keep it in the trust, which you're not going to want to do. Any questions on houses, estate planning, give me a call, 855-500-TRUST. Do it now. Calendar's filling up, 855-500-TRUST. Get your trust done ASAP. Talk to you later. Talk to you tomorrow here on The Word on Wealth.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995. With financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future.
The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial and legal topics. Seek legal advice from a competent lawyer for your individual legal needs. The opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the views of Salem Media Group or its sponsors.
The airing of this program by this station